Alrighty, we are live. Okay, let's get set up on Facebook. I'm going to post this in the Impact group. Go live in a couple seconds. Check it out. Just like that. Go. Live video. And we are live on Facebook. Okay, so we're here at LePage Johnson. Beautiful office here. Thank you, Craig and Shelley, for letting me use the office again. This time on a Wednesday. My name is Nick, and I do a lot of training here at LePage Johnson. I have a local marketing firm that I run ads, click campaigns, marketing for a number of different realtors here at EXP, in the Impact Group, and also across the country. I have a couple in other states as well. I'm also a realtor. I wanted to start out actually by pointing out that I have live training and free Zoom calls for KVCore on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 and Fridays from 1 to 2. Again, so for those of you on Facebook Live, Wednesdays 6 to 7, Fridays 1 to 2, I do live Zoom calls, and those are totally open, totally free to anybody to join. And okay, so today we are mainly going to focus on campaigns. How do we build campaigns? Talk a little bit about what we want to put in the campaigns. Just for privacy's sake, I've hidden some of my campaigns, so I'm going to kind of start from scratch here in my KVCore. And so I have a lot of templates that I've made. I save them in my Google Drive, and I've got other files kind of saved away. But when I make them for other people, because sometimes people ask me to make them for them, they're all generic, just like the ones in KVCore. So here's what I'll start out by saying about campaigns. I've worked a little bit in Boomtown, KVCore. I've done a little bit in Real Geeks. I've played around a little bit in Top Producer. Whoever writes the campaigns for any of these companies is probably not a realtor because they're not very good wherever you go. And I feel like today, in today's day and age, a lot of people can sniff out a campaign pretty quickly if it's too generic. So bottom line, if you take anything away from today, we're going to go through how to make the campaign and walk through all that stuff. But make them personal, especially this first couple touches. Make them really personal to you. Talk about yourself. And even if you haven't been in the industry very long or haven't sold many houses, I was in the same boat, but you can still talk about how you know the area, how you're confident, how you'll work hard, how you do those types of things, and you can still give a little bit more taste than, hey, this is so-and-so from XYZ company. I'm just here to help.
How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing? What do you want? What are you looking for? And so you can really set yourself apart from all those things. That's how I'll start by just saying that no matter what, end of the day, if you're gonna do these campaigns, just make sure to not go too generic with that. Okay, that's the biggest thing. So who here has actually made their own kind of campaign? I know you started. So for anybody who hasn't been into KVCore, is newer, we're gonna go into Marketing Autopilot on the left-hand side. If you're following along, get your laptops out. So we're in Marketing Autopilot, okay? And then once we're into Marketing Autopilot, we're going to look at these smart campaigns right here. And we're going to start a campaign, okay? And again, so I've kind of taken out some of my campaigns that I didn't need just for privacy's sake. And I'm going to go over here to Add a Campaign. And this is where you can see how you can build a campaign from scratch. So we're gonna work on. I'll talk first about how to actually set up starting a campaign, and how you can actually create multiple campaigns that feed into each other. Okay, and then we'll get into creating templates, and then we'll get into how to order within the campaign once you have those templates, and then we'll talk a little bit again about overall how you want to structure the campaigns. And then we'll wrap up, we'll do a couple questions, and we might get out of here a little bit early, because I actually got to be back in South Charlotte a little bit later. But let's get started with how to actually create the campaign from scratch, okay? So KVCore gives us a couple of defaults here. It says start a campaign when lead is new, lead is transferred, or moved to a hashtag. Okay, and so sometimes, so when you click on, so these are just three like defaults. The one I like to use is add trigger, because then you can specify exactly where you want it to start. But if you just simply clicked on start campaign when lead is new and don't even touch source, if you just said start campaign no matter what, if the lead is a new lead and they're labeled new lead, then they'll get added to a campaign. Does that make sense? So that's the easiest way to do it. And what that means, I'll just go back. So again, you don't have to select the source, because if you do a source, it's only going to add the campaigns for a specific source. So for example, if you're getting leads from Zillow, you could type in the Zillow hashtag or the Zillow source, which is where those leads are coming from, and it'll only give that campaign to those leads coming from Zillow. Does that make sense? But let's say you're getting leads from Zillow, Realtor.com, Facebook, and Google. You could theoretically make a different campaign for each different source. Okay? And that would be how you do it, is you could select from like a list of sources here. There you go. Realtor.com is at the top, open house, lead ad, and then there's all kinds of different sources and hashtags in there. And that's how you could create different campaigns for different sources. I'll be honest, I think that, again, if you're making a ton of different campaigns and you're using general templates, it doesn't really matter how it's ordered. People will sniff it out. So, yes.
What are the phone numbers that are in there? That's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
What is all that stuff in there? I'm like, I don't know any of that.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to take off course, but
No, don't worry about it. So, yeah, it's weird. So here's an interesting tidbit. You can share hashtags in KVCore with anybody, but you can't share the campaigns. So you gotta make your own campaigns. They want you to make them personal. But these tags in here are like...
So if we create any lead sources, they're going to go in there?
These are like, I think these are all the sources, I believe, from the Charlotte office.
Okay.
Anybody in the office that's sharing these. Yes.
Gotcha.
So all these phone numbers and everything are phone numbers of leads of other people.
That somebody made a hashtag for. Don't know why. You can try them at your own risk. Yeah, but basically, I generally will just make, if I'm doing it, I would either just do when lead is new, or you could go down to add trigger, and then you could go to status, and you can say when lead is new. And that's basically all it's saying. Status is new lead. That's the equivalent of lead is new. The only difference is that if you do the lead is new, you can select what source it's coming from, so you can differentiate, perhaps, if you wanted to, the campaign based on the source. So, like, if you know that they're coming from Zillow, maybe that campaign is structured a little bit differently, because you know they're probably getting stuff from Zillow and stuff, so you want them to come to your website. So you might say, hey, my website is an IDX from the MLS, updated every 15 minutes. Zillow is not. Use my site. You'll have a much better experience. I want to make sure I'm providing the best value to you as an agent, right? That's something that you might say in a campaign for, like a Zillow campaign, if that's what you're doing for that source. But just keep in mind, you'll have to, again, kind of create a different campaign for each of those if that's what you're going for. But it is possible. I just want to point that out. Not familiar at all of how the leads actually end up in your website. There's a couple ways. Somebody calls your smart number and they put in your extension, they'll be logged as your lead. If someone goes to your website and they click on something and they want to save a house, for example, it'll ask them to force register. And you'll get a lead. You'll get notified in a text and an email that you have a new lead. Someone transfers you or shares a lead with you. Let's say you have someone on a team or a different area that says, hey, I'll send you a couple leads I can't handle. You want to send me a referral. through KVCore, you can actually find anybody in EXP who has KVCore and send it across the country in seconds. I actually sent a couple leads to California. Was on the phone with the guy, and I was like, "Hey, you got KVCore?" He's like, "Yeah, I got KVCore." Cool, I'm gonna send you a couple leads right now. So instead of doing the old-fashioned just screenshotting their information and sending it over there or sharing a contact, I actually found his name in KVCore while I was on the phone, sent it to him, and like 10 seconds later, he got it. He's like, "Oh, got it. It's in my database, and he had it. And he started working, and I could see that he was working, which I thought was the coolest part. But again, so this is where they originate, though, right? So it's interesting too. I do this at a lot. I show this off at a lot of classes because I always like how they do this. But KVCore, if you notice here in the middle here, cell phone number will be your password. I do like how it says that. And the reason why is because a lot of the other websites, they'll just ask for the information immediately. They'll say, "Hey, welcome to my website. Hey, my name is Nick. Give me your info." It's like immediate, right? Like you don't even get your foot in the door. It's just they want your information. They let you look on KVCore. You can make squeeze pages as you made, right? And you can look around a little bit. And it basically lets the leads window shop a little bit. They get to look at a couple things, and then it's going to ask them to register. And I do like that it says cell phone number will be your password. So we get actually significantly less fake numbers, I would say.
Okay, so you said
Go ahead.
it lets you look a couple of times. You hit on that first picture and it asks for information immediately. Is there a number of times you set up?
Yeah, what's the trigger?
Yes, so the default, so there's two different ways, though. So you can view the details here. The default is 2. So I can look at 2 homes before it'll ask me to register.
Is it 2 homes or 2 pictures?
2 homes.
Okay, because yesterday when I did that, I think it was only taking me to 1 picture and then it was asking for the email and it is set on default 2.
Okay. It should be 2 homes, but that'll count. Like it'll count it'll track your cookies and everything. So if you were already on the site before,
Right.
it'll count all those things.
Right.
So
Oh,
so like if I just refreshed or whatever, and I was like, oh, I reached my 2. I'm gonna just refresh the browser and get 2 more. No, it'll make you register.
okay.
So that might have been what happened. But what you were just pointing out, what I just did is I did a quicker way, which is so if they can view 2 homes before they have to register, but if they try to save something, it'll always on the first time ask them to register. Because it's saying, okay, you're saving it, but to where? Who are you? Right? And so that's a big difference. But again, I do like that once it does ask them to register, it says it'll be your password. So try not to put a fake one.
So, but then when do so essentially it's asking you for your cell phone. But, okay.
In a clever way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what disclosure does it have on the bottom there?
So the disclosure says, by clicking register, you agree to our terms of use, that real estate professionals and lenders can call or text you about your inquiry, which may involve use of automated means and pre-recorded / artificial voices. You don't need a consent as a condition of buying any property, goods, or services. Messages and data rates may apply. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, like it says, start a campaign, lead is new.
Mhm.
Why do we have to add the trigger? Because when the lead is new, it's going to automatically start on its own. So do you think at that point we still have to add the trigger?
No. So that's a great question. So if you do lead is new, you don't need the trigger.
Right.
It's one or the other. The difference that I wanted to point out was that if you do lead is new, you can select what source that it's coming from. And why that could be important, again, is if you're paying for leads or if you got leads coming from different sources, you might want them to say different things when they register. But you can also just go down here, you can add a trigger, and so you can say when lead is a status, and you can select this. So let me point, so for those of you, backtrack 1 second. So the trigger status can be very good because you might have leads that come in as a prospect as well on the seller side. Okay? So what I mean by that is you KVCore, when you post like a seller squeeze page, have you done those before? And we might have time to circle back at the end to kind of walk through those. But the seller squeeze pages will say, what's your property address? Put it in, and the computer will generate based on the MLS and numbers from the past 6 months or something like that. It'll give you a CMA, right? Quick, easy. It's like a Zestimate, and I kind of like how it looks. And they work pretty well to get some seller leads. And but those leads, when they come in, they don't come in as new lead. They come in as prospect because they're a seller lead, right?
So seller leads always come in as prospect.
From the seller squeeze pages,
Okay.
yes.
What about the buyer squeeze pages?
Those are coming as new.
Okay.
But that's why I want to point out that if you're making a campaign, you want to do one for sellers. You don't want to do it for new leads because they'll never work because they come in as prospect, not new lead. So the key is that you want to do trigger status is prospect instead of status is new lead, because the seller leads won't come in as a new lead; they'll come in as prospect. Get back to campaigns, but basically, if you're targeting on Facebook, the common complaint I hear is that, well, some of the Facebook ads, they give me a lot of leads, but they're people, like you said, just looking or just fishing around, or they're just junk leads and whatnot. But what you got to realize is that you don't want to. Facebook has removed a lot of. So you used to be able to target like household income and all these kinds of things. They're all RESPA violations probably, and so Facebook has removed a lot of that targeting method. But it is true that you probably, if you're looking at a certain price point or you want to get qualified buyers, you can control how large and how small your radius is. You can target certain zip codes. You can target certain areas, and that might improve the effectiveness of your marketing and help reduce some of that.
But why did I get 2 numbers in 2?
That I don't know. But to your first half of your question, that would probably be a good response to that. Is just the fact that any internet leads are internet leads. I don't care what Zillow says; they don't have better leads. It's just a matter of that they're calling them immediately. If you call the leads, because Zillow has call centers and they'll try to connect you and all that stuff. All they're doing is trying to get you on the phone immediately. And half the time they're crap too, right? The point is though, it's all a crapshoot, and that you win some, you lose some, and like I said, so the guy that I got flying in from Texas right now, great guy, and he found me 7 months ago on Facebook, and we've been going back and forth. But I called him immediately. He called me. I called him right back, and we were talking the first couple of days. I knew it was a couple months out, but here we are 7 months later, and we're gonna go showing a bunch of homes tomorrow, right? And so so it happens, and you gotta kind of build your business up that way, and that's just the nature of the business and everything.
So then, do you recommend that to try once you get a lead from these to call as soon as possible, or do you find better results with that?
Oh yeah.
Like picking up the phone and calling within the first 4 minutes. And that's what a lot of the CRMs talk about.
I'll tell you, one of the first classes I came to here at this office was taught by Craig about how if you don't call within like the first couple minutes, like your chances of converting like go way down.
Mm-hmm.
Craig, do you have those numbers?
Inside of 5 minutes, it's an 80% chance you'll be in contact with the person, and it drops dramatically after 10 minutes.
Wow. All right, so I'll repeat that for everyone over
Does
here.
it matter phone call or text, or just at least reaching out?
Phone call it.
Or does it differentiate?
I think the statistic is based on a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
But people answer text on their time. They might see it, but they'll just leave it and I'll get to it later.
Yeah.
So text is good for that reason, but the statistic is call.
Yeah, so for those who are at home, if you don't call, within the first 5 minutes, if you call, you have an 80% chance of getting in contact with the lead. After that, it just dramatically decreases. And that's why I would say, too, even if you call and they don't pick up, you shoot them a text right afterwards. Again, if you get 2 numbers, I guess, I don't know how that even happen.
A lot of
Yeah, making some calls. That is really interesting with that. I don't know. Again, I shoot him a couple texts, call him. If it doesn't work, doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, that's really the whole point. Internet leads are just they're a couple months away, but some do convert, and they know people that can convert, right? They might refer you other business. You know, they might be looking for a friend. You get a lot of those actually. Hey, this is Nick. I'm a realtor in the area. How can I help you? Well, actually, I'm not really looking at all, but I'm kind of
My
looking
kid needs
for a
to move
friend.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Or they got a best friend that they think, you know, I mean, she should move on from this guy. She needs to get her own place or something like that. I mean, you never know, right? Until you make the call. And that's what Zillow does. They just call everybody. They try to connect to you immediately, and a lot of them are junk too, you know. But you're the first.
These are staggering.
Nice.
There we go. So sales statistics: 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. Wow.
So they get the
Half.
lead
They're
almost
like, oh,
every-
great, look, I got leads. That's awesome.
So half of all people who get a lead don't follow up with the lead. A quarter of the people make a second contact and then stop. 12% of salespeople only make 3 contacts and then stop. 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. So 1 in 10 will actually try more than 3 times to
That's your
reach out to them.
competition. So this is
It's a pretty
you
low
work,
bar.
You'll get the
That's
lead.
right. That's exactly right.
2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% of sales are made on the second, 5% are made on the third, 10% are made on the fourth, 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Wow. That's across the board, right? Just everybody. So, yeah. So the bar is pretty low. I guess for all of us.
So just make the calls.
Exactly.
Make the calls,
Do the
and
work.
send the text, do the work.
Or don't accept leads.
Yeah. And you know, part of this also, Jeff, you were involved with ministry for a while, right? And so you have a large influence. Part of it's also that even if you're in contact with people, they may not even realize that you have your license now. Right. So it's meaningful contact. It's not, hey, you know, we're talking about sports or where we're gonna eat or, you know, oh, great service and, you know, all these different things, and then you never bring it up. It has to be meaningful, like, by the way, I'm a realtor. Oh, no way, I wish I would have known. That's the worst thing you don't want to hear.
Sure.
Right? And so that's kind of goes back to that. Making those
Play
calls.
on their guilt and have them refer someone else to you.
Yeah, right. And there you go. So thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Great stuff. And we'll get back to that. So let's get into here again. Let's just do an example. I'm gonna do like when status is prospected. So we're going into a seller campaign, for example, and I'm gonna hit next. And so again, so you can select. So if you're doing a buyer one for new leads, you can hit buyer. If you're doing seller ones, I'm gonna go over to seller. You can also create a campaign for all types. This might be, you know, if you have, if you have something you just want to send out to everybody, you know, just a general drip. These wouldn't be for holiday campaigns. I get people all the time who say, well, can I make a holiday campaign on there? No, because the holiday campaigns only work if everybody signs up on January 1st. Because then you can schedule how many days after January 1st these holiday campaigns would be. Where that would be for holiday stuff is in mass emails, which is a marketing autopilot, and we can circle back later.
How did you get to this?
This screen right here? So, we went to marketing autopilot.
Yeah, I know. To the buyer seller, I'm still
Oh.
at lead is new.
So, if you did lead is new, you don't have to put the source if you don't want to, or you can select them, make different ones. You go down here, just scroll down and hit next. And then you select who it's for. I'm going to do seller. I'm going to hit next. You're going to give it a name.
Nick, are you going to give us the verbiage?
Um,
The campaign, should I note down or?
Well, again, so
It's whatever you
I can
want,
give
right.
you verbiage if you want.
Okay, so you're just showing us how to create
How to
it, and then we
make it.
can put the verbiage on our own.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm going to show you how to actually make the templates too, because I think what you did is you took the default campaign that was already in KVCore and you took out a couple, maybe reordered them.
No, I didn't. I actually added an email to it because
Oh,
this
great.
one was the squeeze page that I posted on Facebook. So any Facebook lead that comes in, that is specifically for them, asking them, you just clicked on that particular listing. How do you like the listing? Is it, is it priced right?
That's perfect.
All that stuff. So that is the first email which goes out to the new lead.
That's a
As
great
a
idea.
Facebook lead, because they clicked on the squeeze page. I don't want them thinking that, okay, this is something, canned, and they're sending some email. So I made that change, and then I took off a couple of other things out of it, like the investor part and all that.
That's perfect. And so actually that's a great point too. I tell this to some of my marketing clients and people who hire me one-on-one for KVCore as well. But a great idea too for some of these campaigns, like you just said, is you can make a single property squeeze page. Let's say you have a listing,
That's what I did.
right? You have your listing, right?
Mhm.
And so you make that single property squeeze page, and you can, when people come in through a squeeze page, you can attach a hashtag. So what you might do is for a campaign here, when lead is new, or you might do when, let's say hashtag is, and you could type in the hashtag that you have for that single property squeeze, and you can make a quick, like 5-touch campaign, just like you did,
Yes.
and just say, hey, I'm the listing agent for this property. Do you have any questions? Here's some more information that you might not have known. Please let me know if you'd like to see it. We're going to do open house this weekend, etc. And so you can make kind of custom campaigns for each of those. And so let me make this example one, because I want to show you something. There's a way to kind of string these campaigns together. Okay? I think I might have gotten frozen. Let me refresh. So that's a great point, though. So it's really about whether or not you want to just invest the time. That's the biggest thing for people with these campaigns. They think they take so long, which they can take a little while. That is a good point. So like a lot of people will think that it just takes a little bit too long. So they never really make the campaigns. But, a 4 or 5 touch campaign for your listings, I think that's the least you can do for your own listing, right? And I would argue that you would even probably want to do this for your open houses. And you can have a generic open house campaign. I think you should. It's something we should all have. But to your point, even if you had maybe 3 or 4 touches in a week just for an open house, just as a simple follow-up, and then you could put someone at the end of that week on maybe a more longer-term campaign, that could be really, really good at getting leads that way. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to do lead. Let's do trigger. We're going to do status. I'm going to do prospect. Next. Seller. Next. Did it really fast, but pretty good. Okay. Next. I'm going to do seller. Test. Okay. So you got to give it a name. And this is only stuff that you see. So give it a name. Give it a description.
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Oh, sorry.
So in the trigger, we are adding the field as source. What will be the logic?
It's always is
Is okay.
Yeah. Instead of is not. I only gives 2
It's
options.
not doing anything for me. It's blank.
Okay, so
Just a quick question for you, Juan. For the open house campaign, so you have an open house, you post, you make a squeeze page, and then if they click on that, then you do a 5-page, 5-lead campaign, or 5 whatever. It's a suggestion.
Mhm.
Okay, just make
Yeah.
sure I'm understanding.
and here's actually another follow-up. So if you're doing a single property squeeze for an open house that you're going to do, let's say you're going to do the open house on Sunday, okay? I want to post that throughout the week on Monday, probably on Wednesday, on Friday, Sunday morning, right? And then what you can do is when you make a single property squeeze page, you'll notice, and actually let me see if I can open this up in another tab, just so we can have this up because we keep having a lot of questions on squeeze pages.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of go back and forth. that's okay with me. This is why I have interactive classes, because I think we get a lot more done this way. So these single property squeezes, again, this is a lead engine. I'll kind of walk through that one more time. Lead engine, squeeze page is right in the middle. You click on select a domain, click on your name, hit start building. Okay. And then the single property squeeze right in the middle. There's these couple tabs. You got multi-property, single property, seller, and market report. You go over to single property. You type in the listing ID, and you'll notice you can create a hashtag, right? So if you create a hashtag for that open house, or you create an open house hashtag, it'll add that to every lead that comes in to that listing. So if you do a single property squeeze for your listing on the MLS, for your open house, you put the hashtag open house, right? And while you're there at the open house, you have your iPad out or your tablet, and you have the Open House KVCore app, and that will also add the hashtag open house to it. Then what you do is you can set up that campaign, and anybody who has that hashtag open house can be put on that campaign. And I can show you how to do that as well. But basically the idea is that you want to market this. So let me get back to my scenario. You have an open house.
You were saying that we can host the open house single property squeeze page every day till
Yes.
we reach the
I was just about to
open
get there.
house. But are we going to use the same link every single day, or just keep renewing it?
You
Like
can use the same link.
same one, right?
Mhm.
Just bring it up on your Facebook. But how are we going to post it to the same Facebook groups every single day?
No, I probably wouldn't, but I post it to a Facebook group on Monday. I'd share it to my business page on Wednesday. I'd put it on my personal page on Friday. I'd share it again on Sunday morning. You could post on Facebook in a number of different places. Like you can be creative with it. But the point I was trying to make is that if you're doing it like on the weekend, post on Monday, on Wednesday, on Friday, and then all those people during the week who click on to that single property squeeze page for your open house, while you're setting up, who here, when you do your open houses, when you get to the open house, let's say you're doing like 12 to 4, who has people coming in the door like at 12:01?
Or maybe not.
Sometimes you do, but hopefully you're there early.
Yeah.
Because you got to set up the lights, you got to turn on everything, open all the doors, put out some water bottles, whatever, get all your stuff, get mentally prepared. So here's what I tell everyone that I do my consulting with. I say, post a couple times during the week, get there an extra 20 minutes early, and then if you have a list of like 4 or 5 people who have that hashtag, who came in looking at that house during the week, give them a call. Hey, this is Nick. Just wanted to remind you, I noticed you had looked at the open house, or the house I'm doing an open house for today, like on Tuesday or whatever, and just wanted to remind you I'm going to be here till 4 o'clock. So now it kind of gives you a couple of calls to make. That's good follow-up. Helps bring more traffic, hopefully, into your open house. You know, so it's because not always do we have people waiting there. Sometimes we don't. Say if you got some bad weather, you know, might not have anybody walking in. And so instead of just sitting there, you can actually make a couple calls and just say, hey, you know, we had 6 people look at it online. And so then when your seller is asking, well, did anybody come? How'd the open house go? Well, you know, we didn't have too many people come. It was kind of a cloudy day, but I did call the 6 people that looked at it online during the week, and I got 2 of them to schedule a showing later on. They couldn't make it today, but they could make it on Monday. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that we should be doing, because that is much better follow-up for all of our open houses. Now you have a list of people to call. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Does that answer the question? Okay. And again, so you can post that link.
Because what I'm doing is I'm posting like on Facebook classifieds, and there are different Facebook groups.
Yep.
I'm doing them the same day. Then
Yeah.
I'm going into Harrisburg and I'm posting everything the same day.
Yeah.
So I think I need to categorize, like,
Spread it out a little
yeah,
bit.
spread it out.
Because what you're doing is you're throwing all your eggs in one basket,
Right, right,
and it's all on Monday. And then by Wednesday, nobody's seeing it.
right.
You want to post a couple places on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then repost everything the same group. All the same groups the day of.
But that's awesome though if you're planning, usually open houses, you start that's great that you have a whole week to plan.
Yeah. Plan in
So,
advance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, in that scenario with the open house, when we do our campaign, is Prospect the best? What's the status? Yeah.
So we'll go here. So for an open house campaign, again, what it'll be predicated on, the trigger is the hashtag.
Okay.
There's no status for open house.
Gotcha.
So what you would want to do is, again, you want to go to add trigger,
Got it.
or you can actually just go move to hashtag. So you can just do this. That's easier. So start campaign when the lead is moved to hashtag XYZ. And so this is where you type in hashtag open house.
Gotcha.
But you want to make sure that it's the exact same. Okay? So if you got open house and it's got an S on the end, or you type in the street address, open house for Main Street, it's not going to put them on the campaign. It's got to match the
But we
same.
can add 2 hashtags, right?
You can for the app, yes. For the tablet, so on the tablet you can actually add 2. So I would do one that matches my campaign, and then I do one for the street address.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the problem. That's the common mistake people make. Is so for those of you at home again. So on the tablet, on the iPad, when you have people sign in, it allows you to create 2 hashtags. The common mistake people make is they just mush them together. They do hashtag open house for Main Street, but that's not the same hashtag as hashtag open house, right? I would do hashtag open house,
And
hashtag Main Street. There you go. That way you can still categorize and organize which leads are coming from where, but they're going to be put on the open house campaign. Does that make sense? Great question. So that's how you do that. You do the open house stuff, and then you just walking through again. Yeah, you just hit next, you name it, and you're good. And it always run. Just do always run, and then don't lock. It's already set, and just add your campaign. Okay. Everybody got that? Cool. So let's get in here. We're gonna add a campaign. What we have happen?
How did you get to that page? You went, I did the,
Same page we were on before. Same page we were on before, from the campaign that he was doing.
Yeah.
That's not the squeeze page, it was the.
right, he went to, is it buyer or seller was your option?
You were doing this and.
Whichever
we did it
one you want to
hashtag.
do. I was just doing an example.
Okay.
But if you do it again for the open house, it's moved to hashtag instead of that.
Move to hashtag. Okay. So I'm gonna move to hashtag and I press next, right?
Yes. And then it's all the same steps. After that, you select if it's for a buyer or seller. And then after that, you name it, give a description, always run, not locked, double check, add campaign.
And that's just the open house. You want to just do a hashtag.
Yeah, you can do hashtags for other stuff
Yeah,
too.
for other things, right.
So there's 2, like as far as lead sources. You have the general that you could run reports off of, and then you have a little bit more specific. So that was exactly what,
Yeah.
like other CRMs, you have lead source and then you have a different campaign. So is that recommending for all of them to do more of a general and then something that's a little bit more specific, like events or Medit, social event or something like that, so you can track and
Well, I guess what I'll say is the more personal you are, the better. That's always in the campaign list. But that just takes more time. So it's just a matter of how invested are you. I will take the time because I think these make a big difference. And like I said, if you're just sending out the generic messages, people they know it.
Yeah.
They know it. We get so many robocalls and junk spam these days. We know when it's just an automatic thing going out, right?
so then if we had someone call in for one of our listings, we would put a hashtag with that address. This way, at the end of the day, you could then run a report off of that address and you could see, okay, I got 5 from the open house, I got 3 calls, I've got referrals like that. So then you can see really analyzing your data where you're getting your valid leads from.
Exactly. That is the power of the hashtags.
And the value is, are we locked or unlocked?
Unlocked. It should be, yeah. The top one's yes, always run. The bottom one's no. Yeah. Okay, so now we've made the campaign. We're in here in campaign library. And now we're wondering, what are we going to put in here? Right? Interesting. I put something in there already. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that we can have KVCore call us immediately, try to connect us just like Zillow does. And so the way to do that, that's the first thing we'll go over. You go to add action, and we're going to go to call. Okay? And then you're going to see there's two options at the top. Is everybody there? Add action call? Okay. So then when you're at the top, you're going to see task reminder, which is just going to remind you to call them. All that's going to do, so if you don't have the KVCore mobile app,
I'm sorry.
it won't do that.
With
But
the open house,
go
like
ahead.
move to open house.
Mhm.
Next page when we go, it says campaign designed for. So it should be put all because
I would,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And then just name it. That's the only stuff that you see. That doesn't matter. But definitely once you're within the campaign, if you want them to call, so you probably wouldn't have them call for open house. Right? But if it's a buyer lead, if it's a seller lead, and they're coming in, I'd like it to call me. Because it'll try to call you immediately. Craig was bringing up 5 minutes. Well, this will try to call you in 60 seconds. It'll put you in contact. So you'll see these two options. You got task reminder, then you got underneath it, you got call me. Okay? Does everybody see that? Okay. So you'll see it'll try to call you once over 3 days until they're contacted. So basically saying that it will continue to call you once every 3 days, or once every day for 3 days until you get in contact with them, or unless you pick up. So some people say, like, oh, I keep getting KVCore calling me to try to connect to leads. Well, you probably didn't pick up. Or you're just getting a lot of leads. So if you keep declining the calls, it'll call you tomorrow and say, hey, well, you didn't connect with them today or yesterday. You should do it today. So if you wanted to just remind you, stay on you, this might be a good option for you.
So how do you know what number to call from?
Great question. So I'm going to hit add, and then I'll bring up here this office number. So if you guys are not familiar with the smart number, that 980-217-6669, I know it because I see it all the time. That is a great thing to do would be save that number in your phone if you're at the Charlotte office. Or save whatever number if you click on your email in the top right-hand corner. The top right-hand corner, click on your email. This number here, that is the number that you're going to want to save because that's your smart number. You can purchase your own personal smart number for, I think, $25 a month through KVCore.
Is everybody's number different?
No. If you're in the Charlotte office, you're going to share that number.
Mine's 385. Oh, because we're on South.
Yeah, but we both have different numbers.
Are you 803?
Yeah.
She's
I'm
yeah.
385.
Well, which office?
We're with Floyd B. front and end, so we're both with the same.
Are you in a team either?
Well, it's our organization, but we're together. Yeah, she's on my group. So I don't know why.
Well, that's interesting. You can always go to the tech support center in EXP World,
Yeah.
and you can request to change that number. Basically, whatever number shows up under your name in the top right-hand corner, I save that in my phone as KVCore, so that I'm not like, who is this? And then it's a lead. Yeah. So go ahead, save that number in your phone, whatever number's up there. You can save it as KVCore. And again, when they call you, it's not necessarily a lead calling you, but it's gonna say, hey, this is KVCore. It'll identify itself. It'll say, do you want to connect? Press 1, which is just the same as Zillow. So I have these for certain campaigns that I do, and I think it can be pretty helpful to stay on top of your people. I mean, especially if people are coming in through Facebook and Google, you want to jump on them immediately. And that doesn't mean all of them are going to work. You might have duplicate numbers, right? But if you're calling, at least you're doing your due diligence, and you're not going to let people slip through the cracks. Because the worst conversation you can get is, "Oh, I wish I would have known. Wish you would have called me yesterday." Oh shoot. So that's that. Any questions about that number? I'll say this too. I say this in every class that I bring this up for the smart number. I never would advertise that number anywhere. Okay. So I would give everyone my cell number. That is the office number. And so if someone just calls that number and they're not already in your database, what I mean by that is that they're not already in your KVCore, then it's on a round robin with all 700 members of the Charlotte office for EXP. But don't freak out too much. If they are already your lead and they're in your system and they call from that number, it will go to you, okay, directly. It'll forward that to you. But just in case, I just never hand that out. Because let's say they say, "Oh, Nick is a great agent. They're trying to give you a referral," and then they give their friend that number, and their friend is not in your KVCore.
Right.
Well, now you have no idea where that lead's going.
So if we manually enter contacts, right, their phone number and everything, so with this number, with their information in the KVCore,
Mhm.
anytime.
Then you're good.
Okay.
You're okay.
Okay.
But just keep in mind that if you're using that number a lot, and then again they give let's say they have their spouse send you a message or something, then it's on a round robin. Or if they call. Like if their spouse, if you didn't put them in, the system doesn't know who they are. They're treated as a new lead. That's why what I generally would advise everyone to do is you save that number as KVCore, and then if you're ever talking to a lead and they're messaging through the system, you let them know, "Hey, this is the office number. My direct personal line is 704-280-4148.
And I got like, I would say hundreds of my, prospects texting me on this number.
Yeah, they say, "Who is this?
Yeah.
Or this is a new number." That's why, so I make that very clear. And we'll get back into our campaign with that point. So this is yet another reason why for these text message campaigns, if you're making templates, you gotta put your personal number in these templates. Tell people, "Hey, this is Nick. I'm reaching out from the smart number. From the office number. I'm at the office right now. My personal direct line is, you can reach me faster at here." That way they're not confused.
So the existing campaigns we have, there is an option with the text and all that. I guess they are still using this number.
With the existing campaigns, the default KVCore ones,
Right.
it'll all go through that number. It'll never
Yeah.
come from your phone.
So you are saying we can make the changes in that existing campaign, go and plug in our personal
Templates.
right.
We can put the personal number into the text,
Mm-hmm.
but the text will still come from that 980 number. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
But the client will have your personal. cell
Exactly. And that's to me the best and only way to do it. Because people get so confused, and I don't want to confuse anybody over the smart number and why we have it, but I just refer to it as the office number. EXP doesn't have offices. You don't want to tell people we got a virtual office. Okay, tell them we got an office. This is our office number. Right? That's what it is. Don't call that office number. I might not be there. Right? If you want to work with me, you like me, I'm giving you my personal number. You can reach out to me anytime. Call me anytime. It helps you build a little connection with them, hopefully. And hopefully, they won't be surprised when they get a different text from a different number, and it's you, and they're like, "Who's this?" "Oh, this is your cell phone number." Okay. Right? And so maybe that starts a conversation, but that is definitely how you would want to handle that. I call that the office number. Don't call the office. We're closed after 5. Call me. Right? Call me instead. Okay, any questions on that?
You know what? I'm going to belabor the point. I am not on that page.
On this
It's not just
page?
me.
Okay. No problem. So you go to Marketing Autopilot. I'll walk you all the way back.
But yeah, I get that.
Okay. When you go to Start a Campaign,
Got that.
okay, and then you're in here, you got your library. Just click on the name of the campaign that you want to open.
Thank you.
That's it. We're good? Sorry about that. And you can stop me if I'm talking too much. Because that's why I tell people on my Zoom calls too. That's why I have the little chat open. Say, if I'm going off on a tangent, raise your hand. Ask a question. And I will pause where I'm at. So we're all on the same page now? Okay. And so then again, we went to add action, call, right? And then after you go to add action, you call, and then you could go to call me. There we go. All right. So again, I'm not going to get into the actual details of like writing each of these templates because again, I think they should all be personal. But I hope I've given you guys some inspiration on how to format them. But the idea is that when you go here to add action, there's emails, calls, texts. Let's say if I want to like add an email, you can't just simply add and start typing within the campaign. That makes sense? It'll make you select from a list of pre-made templates, okay? Does that make sense? Is everybody on the same page? Okay. So what I mean by that is that so you basically need to create the templates before you start making a campaign. But that's really the part that I didn't want to get into because that people ask, well, can you just do it for me? Or can you what do you do? Well, mine should be different than yours. They should be different than yours. There's no exact science to it. But the idea is that you go, so are we looking at the top of this page? You see there's campaign library and there's template. Does everybody see that? We're going to go to templates. Okay. And this is where you would add all these templates. So you can add, you can clone, like you might have done some of these. You can make a duplicate and change them. But I think it's best you go in here to add template, the green button. You can add emails, add texts. You can even add tasks or call reminders. But mainly the top two, emails and texts. And just create a couple personalized templates that are personalized to you. And again, if you're doing the text message, make sure to put the personal number. That's about the extent of what I'll get into the templates. And again, really it's just, like we touched on earlier, it's how much time investment you want to put into these. But I personally think these make a big difference. And so, yeah, take it as you may. But yeah, we're not going to sit here and just write all these templates. But definitely this could be something you could spend a couple hours on, for sure. But it could make a pretty big difference if you do them right. I really wanted to make sure we knew how to actually create the campaign and the different steps. And I hope we're good on that. We're good on that end? Okay.
What's I don't know if this is too detailed, but
Right.
it says webhook.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is, to be honest. They just added this like a couple weeks ago and haven't really...
A webhook is a way for an app to provide other applications with real-time information. A webhook delivers data to other apps as it happens, meaning you get data immediately.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that. I just haven't looked into it
I
yet.
have a
But
question. So, you know in Matrix you can set somebody up on the portal.
Mhm.
Is there a way to do that on KVCore?
yes.
So that they search through your website and not the Matrix website?
Yes. I don't want to touch on that right now, but I'll say this. You join us on our classes. We do that like every week. That's the number one question I get.
Nick, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt? With the KVCore website, I think it's a lead capture website. It's not more like where you do the blogging and everything and then you do the search engine optimization. I think with this website, we cannot have the search engine optimization, right?
No, you can. You definitely can.
But it doesn't give us any option when you're creating the pages. You cannot create the tag, the title, and all that stuff.
You can, and I'll say this too. SEO has kind of gone away a lot.
Okay.
Google has really depressed all that stuff. And so unless you are constantly, actively posting, tagging, working full-time, I mean full-time, like every day on that SEO, the competition is just going to beat you. I mean,
So
there are
then-
people who have teams and teams of marketers
So
who work.
basically, then it doesn't make sense for you to post the blogs and get into that. Maybe just focus on KVCore website, make it work for you.
I'll have to disagree with you there. I do think the blogs are very powerful
Okay.
because if you post them on Facebook. Now, let's do this. If everyone's good on campaigns, because really, as far you make the templates. Once we've created the campaign, you make the templates, and then ordering them is pretty simple. I'll go over that briefly, and then we'll finish on
Okay.
blogs, and then we'll wrap up. That's good with everybody. So once you make those templates, you go here to test, and then you can go to add actions, and that's where you can like add these emails. So KVCore, like I said, has some like default ones. I usually name mine so I can find them kind of easier. So I got Nick, they're there. So you put that at the beginning. But let's say you do like one of these default campaigns. They're not like too good, right? Like I said, they're very generic. That's why I highly recommend making your own. Let's say if I was clicking on my own, you can name them. I'm gonna say like first email or something like that. You can give it a time. So this is saying how many days, how many hours, how many minutes after the lead signs up are they going to get this message. My advice would be if you're going to do first touch for anything, it should be within like an hour. Like same day. Maybe 2 hours if you want to do, or even a couple minutes, 15 minutes later. If I'm doing an open house campaign and I'm hosting an open house and someone signs in, they're probably not going to be there an hour, but I want that first thank you email, thank you text. Hey, this is Nick. I'm the realtor at that open house you were just at. Thank you for coming. So like as they're walking out the door, they're getting that message. And I would send both at the same time. A text and an email together. Boom. Right away. Hit them early, right? So as far as that goes, I mean, you can get creative with it, and really there's no exact science to it, but that would be my advice, is hit them immediately. And then after that, you can make it as long or as short as you want. But I'm going to leave that to you guys. I don't want to take up all day with that. But does that make sense to everybody? Adding those emails, adding those text messages. Do you have a question? No, just yawn. Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, make the templates. Go over those campaigns. Add these actions. The last thing I'll say about campaigns before we wrap up with the blog posting stuff is that you can go to status or add a tag. You can have it change at a certain point. So let me give you an example. So you might have someone who's a new lead, or you might have someone who is on the open house campaign or on a single property for your listing. And let's say you only do it 5 touches. Like after 1 week of your listing presentation, you change them from your listing campaign, I'll call it, right? And you say, I want to change them to active lead after 1 week. So you could say status, and you could say change status to active lead at 1 week. Right? So what does that mean? So that means like if you had an active status campaign or active lead campaign, so the trigger would be lead is active lead, you could create a campaign that would put them on that after they move off of your listing campaign. So your listing campaign, would they come in through a single property squeeze page, they're put on a hashtag for that listing, they're on that campaign for a week, and then you have it switch to active lead, and maybe you have a second campaign that changes them there. Does that make sense? And I'll say it one more time, but in a different way. So that's for status. Let's say you had another campaign that was not task, but for tag, and then you could put a hashtag and have them switch that way. So again, you can have somebody on an open house campaign, let's say for a week. And then at the end of the open house campaign, at the end of the week, you can say on day 7, I want to switch them to just hashtag just looking or something like that. And maybe you just have it touch like once every week for like forever. I've seen people do it for like years or whatever. And you could just do that. You could just say, hey, on day 7, add this tag.
So when we set these automatic campaigns up, do they have the option to opt out?
Yes, at any time.
Okay.
They can all, every single message at the bottom.
And is it like Matrix where once you opt out, you can't opt back? They can't opt back in unless I do it?
No, they can.
Okay.
They can always come back to your website and just log back in.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they can opt back in for the updates. Yeah. But does everyone get on this? So you can add or change the status at the end of the campaign and basically push them to a different campaign.
Do you get an alert that their status on that campaign is finished? Because you said I'm up to 5. Is it an automatic alert, or how will I know?
You won't get an alert, but if you
create one saying campaign is ending,
Yes.
and then you create another task saying put them on a different campaign.
yeah, so it's not automatic, but you
Yeah,
can create an alert. The easiest way to do it too is you change your status. When you look into KVCore, you'll notice it's different too. It'll be a different color, and they'll be different. You can search differently. Yeah, I mean, if you have a ton of leads, it can get a little bit confusing there too. So maybe make those tasks. But I think the hashtags are pretty good too. If you see that they've been changed in the hashtag, you can search by those hashtags.